Church, there's a saying that says that when you first meet someone, you're not meeting them, you're meeting their representative. And it normally takes about 3 months for the real person to show up. This is why I do not feel bad at all for Bilal, because Mama showed up and showed exactly who she was day one off the damn plane. She may have not given him the answer that he wanted, but she gave him the answer that he needed. I got my notes. I hope y'all got yours. Let's get on into this damn mess. All right, y'all, so let's get started. So first off, I just want to thank all y'all who dropped down in my Married at First Sight reviews and said you need to check out 90 Day Fiancé because it's a hot mess and your skills are best suited to help sort out these damn couples. I want to send a sincere thank you to y'all. I did not know what I was missing. I was not really familiar with the franchise. I may have seen half an episode years ago, but I never really paid it much mind, and my dance card was full in terms of shows, so I kind of just moved on to the ones that were, I was busy reviewing or I was more interested in, so I never really gave it a chance. So I want to thank you for making me take a second look at it, because I didn't know the hot-ass mess I was missing. Now, baby, before we get started, I kind of have to familiarize myself with the show's premise. So as I understand it, and y'all drop down in the comments and let me know if I'm wrong, these people have 90 days to bring, they bring their fiance over from abroad somewhere, and they have 90 days to decide whether or not they want to get married or whether or not they want to send them back to their country, right? And so this is all predicated upon a K-1 visa. And so I did a bit of research, and apparently it's a visa that you get. It's issued by the State Department and it allows you to bring somebody over for 90 days with the express purpose that you'll either get married or leave the country in that time frame. Now, you cannot work for the 90-day period, and you also cannot work for 6 months afterwards should you get married to the person. So you're essentially saying that, once this person comes over, they're not going to be working for the next 9 months, if you think about it, the initial 3-month period as well as the subsequent 6-month period afterwards. So in order to even go through this, you really have to be in the mindset that you are enamored with this person. You are absolutely head over heels in love with them, because to me, there's no bigger pressure point than somebody living off of you that you're already on the fence about in terms of whether or not they're there for the right reason. So listen, I couldn't be a contestant on this show. I'm way too skeptical. I'm way too cynical, but it makes for really good TV just to find out whether or not these couples will stay together or they'll send them back, abroad to whence they came. So let's start out with our couples. So when I start reviewing shows like this, y'all, just from a reality TV perspective, I always like to start the season with a kind of rubric for how to judge, evaluate, and categorize the couples in terms of individual fit as well as collective fit together, right? So I pretty much have 4 categories: background, lifestyle/compatibility, ecosystem, which is composed of their parents, their friends, family, and just outlook in terms of whether or not these people are trying to scam them out of a green card or whether I see this couple going the distance, right? So let's start out with Bilal and Shaeeda. So Bilal is a real estate agent and a real estate investor. He has the nice car, the nice home. He has 2 kids. He has an ex-wife. And he's pretty much trying to put himself back out there in terms of loving somebody again after having been through divorce, right? Apparently it took him a long time to get to the point where he wanted to let somebody new in. And but he has a really great co-parenting relationship with his ex-wife, and his kids seem very settled and very nice, right? Now, in terms of Shaeeda, and I'm going to try to get this right, but y'all hold me accountable if I say Shaeeda, because his ex-wife name is Shaeeda, so I'm already programmed to say Shaeeda, and I'm trying to say Shaeeda. So Shaeeda is from Trinidad and Tobago, baby, and Shaeeda is a yoga instructor. Now, listen, we don't really know much about her background outside of that. We didn't really see her house in the in Trinidad and Tobago and how she was set up and how she lived. I also am a little bit out of experience or out of breath when it comes to the Muslim culture and how they set up their relationships between husbands and wives, right? I know like the women wear the hijabs and they're, expected to be traditional and XYZ, but I don't really know the makeup in terms of if the man is supposed to be the breadwinner and the woman is supposed to be the homemaker. My uncle is a Muslim, and so he's the breadwinner in his family and his wife does not work, right? So I don't know if that's how it's set up for all Muslim families. Y'all drop down in the comments and let me know. I don't want to offend anybody. I simply just don't know. And so it seems to me, just in terms of her background and what she wanted, he came over there dressed in, in very, very nice clothes, very nice suits, Gucci belts, Louis Vuitton luggage, and she kind of saw a life that she wanted for herself, right? So that's kind of why she was okay with him proposing and okay with coming over to America to try to see if this, relationship had any legs. Now, in terms of their lifestyle and compatibility, and I already kind of alluded to it before, I think my review of them is predicated on whether or not he is okay being the breadwinner, right? Because if he is okay being the breadwinner, then there is no problem with her wanting to be taken care of, with her having a judgment in terms of what he drives, what the house looks like, and, how their life is set up, right? If you are taking me from Trinidad and Tobago and I'm not going to work and I'm going to be the homemaker and you're going to go out there and make the money, then you need to at least keep me into the standard in which I become accustomed or better, right? Like if I wanted to struggle, I'm not saying she struggles in Trinidad and Tobago, but I'm just saying that if I wanted to struggle, I would just stay where I am or find some man here, right? So it's kind of like figuring out exactly how they want their lifestyle set up. So if he wants a partner and he wants someone to build with and he wants her to work as well, then that's a completely different review in terms of summing up how he feels about the relationship and how she should go about approaching the relationship, right? So, from what I understand in terms of how these couples get together, they don't seem to spend a lot of time together in the country that they meet before they come back to America. And to me, that's kind of like a recipe for disaster if you don't flesh things out before you end up back in America in real life and out of this like paradise situation that you've been in for 7 days, 1 month, or 2, So just interesting to see the dynamic between the two of them. And we'll get to the whole hoax and whatnot, and in terms of my feelings on it and what I see about it. Now, in terms of the ecosystem around them, as I said, we don't really have a lot of information about Shaeeda's background, right? But the episodes kind of focus more on Bilal's background and his family in terms of his ex-wife, his kids, his sister, and they all seem to want the best for him. Now, I don't know if this is a situation of Bilal got the money, so we need to protect him at all costs, or if they would be okay with bringing somebody in. From what I see, they're okay with him bringing somebody in, provided that she's loving and she's not there for the wrong reasons, right? And drop down in the comments and let me know if y'all got that as well. Now, in terms of the outlook, I think what will predicate them staying together is, it really to me comes down like the central issue between Bilal and Shaeeda. And it's kind of twofold, right? Like, number one, let's just like analyze the housing and the car hoax. So Bilal decides to play this practical joke. Apparently he likes practical jokes. He likes to play pranks on people. And instead of taking her to his nice house, his nice car, and his nice life in terms of how he has it set up, he takes her to his childhood home that I guess his family still owns. He picks her up in a panel van, and he's trying to test whether or not she's there for the right reasons, right? Now, I am not a fan of playing games with people, but I guess when you have 90 days to figure out whether or not you're going to get married to this person or send them back to Trinidad and Tobago, honey, you gotta pretty much cut out all the BS from the get-go. Okay, so he's trying to figure out who she is. My problem with the housing and the car hoax is that I think his intentions were a bit wrong going into it, right? Because just from a purely practical standpoint, if your last relationship ended in divorce, right, and it was very hard for you and it took you a while to even want to love again, why then would you set yourself up in a situation where there is doubt cast as to whether or not this person is there for the right reasons or just there for a green card, right? To me, if you wanted to protect your heart, what you would actually do is find somebody in the continental United States with which to make a relationship with and see if y'all could go the distance, right? It seems like you've already set yourself up for failure by picking somebody in a country where them staying with you is predicated as to whether or not, they're there for the right reason. So to me, his intentions were bad just starting off, right? And secondly, and this is the problem, y'all, that I have with Shaeeda, If you purport yourself on the phone, on FaceTime, and when this man met you down to Trinidad and Tobago as a rider, then I have a problem when you come to America and you initially prove that you're the complete opposite of what you purported yourself to be, okay? Either keep it absolutely 100 or don't keep it anything at all, right? The whole bait and switch of the situation was a little bit unnerving for me. And as I said in the intro, she may have not given him the answer that he wanted, but she gave him the answer that he needed. Now listen, I'm not saying people can't change, and maybe she had a bad day. I don't know what the flight time is from Kansas City, Missouri to Trinidad and Tobago. Maybe mama had a bad day. Maybe she was off, okay? But to me, when you're tired and also when you drink, or when the truth serum comes out in terms of what you actually feel in your heart of hearts, okay? So don't purport yourself to be a rider if you're not actually that, right? So there's fault on both sides there. Furthermore, just in terms of their outlook, I'm kind of wondering whether they're a good match as far as children goes, right? Because in order for them to get married and to stay together and to build a life together, she wants kids, okay? You've already, in terms of Bilal has already had his kids. He already has two of them. He has an ex-wife. He's been there, done that. He's been through pre-K, kindergarten, middle school. He got them in high school. They're preteens and teenagers. He's on the tail end of his responsibility for them as it relates to raising them, right, initially. So what he's basically saying is that when he's bringing her over here and potentially getting married, it's saying, I'm willing to start this process over for you. Now, on the Shaeeda side, mama is 37, okay? And listen, she's a better woman than I will ever be, because there is no way in hell you would have got me from the sands of Trinidad and Tobago without an explicit promise that you intended to get married and also have a baby, right? Because the internet and WebMD say that anything after 35 is a geriatric pregnancy, baby. So I'd be damned if you fitting to drag me over here to America, got me up in your mansion, driving your car, cleaning your damn house, making your meals, making Jamaican beef patties and jerk chicken, honey, watching your damn kids and being a stepmom, and I don't get a child of my own, okay? If I wanted to, to waste away my time or whatever, I'd have stayed in Trinidad and Tobago, found me a man with a fruit stand and had a whole bunch of perfectly tan children, and I could have stayed there, okay? So if you can't add to my life, then don't mess with me in the first place, right? And on the topic of her being a stepmom, I think that her concerns were valid in terms of not knowing what that means to be a stepmom to somebody. But listen, I've never been a stepmom. I don't really even know any stepmoms, to be completely honest. And my parents have been together for 30 some odd years. So I don't even know, that whole makeup in terms of a family dynamic. But what I would say is that Shaeeda's only responsibility to those children is to be a loving and supportive ear if they want you to be, okay? They already got a mama. She had them, she raised them, and she is continuing to raise them. And that's their, their sole support in terms of mothering advice, right? Number one, you haven't been a mother. And number two, you should just be a friend to those kids. Be whatever those kids want you to be to them. That's what your role is to me as a stepmom. So stepmoms of America and abroad, y'all drop down in the comments and let me know if you agree. But just in terms of the outlook of this couple, I'm not entirely sure just based on this initial thing. It seems to be a mismatch. But listen, as far as I'm concerned, if he wanted an authentic match without the pressure of a 90-day K1 visa, he would have found somebody in America. So if you play silly games, you'll win silly prizes, and we will see how this couple develops. Now on to our second couple, y'all. Let's talk about Kara and Guillermo. So Kara is, of course, American, and Guillermo, she found him in the Dominican Republic. So let's just talk about the background. Kara seems to have a balloon business. I called her in my notes here the balloon lady, but apparently she's like a serial job person. She's the balloon lady. She wants to do real estate. She's had a whole bunch of odd jobs, right? But clearly they're paying well because, from the apartment or the house that we saw in terms of the interior, it was decorated very nice. Clearly mama does well for herself, or she at least takes care of the bills that she needs to take care of for her damn self, right? Now, when Kara was in the Dominican Republic, she met Guillermo. And Guillermo is a waiter, y'all. Now, when I first heard that Guillermo was from the Dominican Republic or she met him there, I got worried, okay? And the reason why I got worried, though, y'all, is because the island men, honey, they are gorgeous, they are beautiful, but honey, they will screw you so good that your stuff will be missing. And don't ask me how I know, okay? So I'm not trying to categorize a whole thing of island men. I'm just trying to tell y'all from my experience. I mean, somebody else's experience that I know. But listen, we come to find out that he is actually a Venezuelan citizen who just happens to be living in the Dominican Republic because his brothers are there. So interesting guy. You know, he has the whole island look. And they do seem like a very loving match just in terms of their backgrounds and how it's set up with that. Now, in terms of their lifestyle and compatibility, the thing about the 90-day fiance experience that kind of strikes me is that you kind of already start out at a disadvantage in terms of the power dynamics, right? As I said before, this person is not going to be working for the first 3 months. If you choose to stay with them, they can't work for 6 months afterwards. So you really have to like this person to bring them over for 9 months of you trying to figure out whether or not this is a viable relationship or whether or not you should just send them back to their damn country, right? Now, if you couple that also with the dynamic of the older woman, younger man, the cougar thing, and him being so young that he's kind of looking to her for guidance, that's a whole nother layer of pressure point in terms of him trying to find his own manhood, assert himself, where she's more experienced, more seasoned, and she wants things done a certain way. Now, I think it's to her credit that she's in her 30s and not like in her 40s or 50s, because I find people in their 40s and 50s, they know who they are, they're settled in their ways, and they're harder to change. So I think, you know, if she's in her 30s and he's in his 20s, I think there's still room there for her to be a bit malleable and for their lifestyles to be set up well. Now, where I wonder about their compatibility is just in terms of, you know, I hate to take it back to the whole work thing. When she met him in the Dominican Republic, he was a waiter, right? He was a waiter that was learning English as part of, you know, him interacting with customers and people that were traveling in and out of the damn country, right? And so it's kind of like, what life does he have in America? Are you going to set him up with a waiting job? Are you going to enroll him in English classes? Like, you know, there's a 9-month delay before he'll be able to work. So he has to be indoctrinated into your life, your routine, you know, whether you help to enroll him in English classes or get him set up with his own friends, ecosystem, you know, try to help him create a life of his own outside of you, because your spouse cannot be your be all and end all of life. I'm so sorry, it will never work out. There needs to be some separation between who you're married to and what you do for a living, right? So love can only take you so far in some instances. So I kind of worry about that a little bit. Now, in terms of their ecosystem, we didn't really see a whole bunch in terms of her family, but we did see we saw his family just in terms of his brother that was in the Dominican Republic. The other brother couldn't make it. She did have a friend, but the friend was in the DR too. So we don't know in terms of her family makeup back home and how that's set up. And y'all drop down in the comments if I'm missing something, but I don't remember seeing like her mother, father, or anything like that, right? So as I said, she's a fully formed adult. She's in her 30s. So perhaps she's a little bit past the whole needing the parental involvement. It'll be interesting to know what happens if they decide to have kids and how the parents will be involved. But perhaps that will come over in subsequent episodes. I'm new to this franchise, so I'm not really entirely sure there. But, you know, he's being ripped from his ecosystem entirely, if you think about it. Everything that he has known from his family, his friends, the way his life's set up, he's leaving that in order for a chance at love in America, right? But she has already everything set up for her in America. So once again, another power dynamic that has to be explored. Now, in terms of the outlook, y'all, they seem very lovey-dovey. He doesn't strike me as a scammer. He seems too young and too naive to be trying to do her dirty in a sense. So I don't really think that he's there for the wrong reasons. I just hope that, you know, he doesn't get caught up in the vision that she has for him. Right? I hope that he finds a way to assert himself and to find out who he is as his own man even though he's kind of a little bit indebted to her for bringing him to America and exposing him to this new life. So listen, he's young enough that he can start over in America and build a whole new job, family, friends, ecosystem. And that's kind of like the benefit of youth, which is why people should travel when they're younger, because, you're never going to be as unencumbered as you are in your 20s. Once you hit your 30s and your 40s, you pretty much have responsibilities and requirements at that point. So a good outlook for them. I'd have to know more in terms of how they progress through the process, but initially I'm not really seeing any super red flags. Now on to Jibri and Miona. So Jibri is a musician, and he's actually one of my favorite men in addition to Bilal. I always kind of tend to root for the most reasonable person, but I really identified with Jibri because I just love the whole musician, entertainer, influencer, trying to drag himself up from where he is to where he wants to be story, right? It kind of resonates with my own a bit. I'm not a musician, but I'm in this influencer space and trying to make it work for me in my life going forward. So I identified with his character on the show. So he's a musician, and his 90-day fiance is this lady named Miona, and Miona is from Serbia. Now, I want to call Miona Kardashian, and y'all know exactly why, okay? Now, Miona is a makeup artist down to Serbia, and they met because, he has this band that was touring around, and apparently, I guess he met her on as part of social media, and their businesses are both in the creative space, so they have some commonalities there that kind of bonded them together, right? So that's their background. Now, in terms of their lifestyle and compatibility, what I really liked about Jibri, y'all, is that, there's this kind of notion in the entertainment industry that you have to have this woe is me backstory, right? Like you have to be downtrodden, that you have to be homeless, that you have to be living in your car. And granted, you do get some sort of skills and some sort of inner story and inner drive from having those experiences, but that's not the be all and end all of getting to success in the entertainment industry, right? And so I like Jibri because he's reasonable. He said, I pretty much gotten rid of the band or taken a step away from that in order to try love. I don't have the money that I need to do what I want right now. Let me go home so that I don't have to struggle, right? I can reflect, renew, recollect myself, and then be better off in terms of where I want to go through next. So I really liked his reasonable mindset with that. And in terms of her, what I like about Miona Kardashian, y'all, is that Miona kept it 100 from the beginning, okay? And this is why, I don't like people that switch up, right? So Shaeeda, in terms of purporting herself to be one thing and then finding out she's completely different, that bothers me. Though I might not like your choices in terms of what you want for your life, in terms of Miona, I can respect that you are completely forthright and completely 100% transparent as to what it is you want from the beginning, and the story stays consistent, right? She says, I want to come to America. I want to live the American dream. I want to live in California. I don't want to live in South Dakota. I don't want to live like I'm in my 50s. I'm young. I'm happening. I want to be around the cool people. I want the American dream. And she's kept that constant from the beginning. I think there's going to be a bit of a pressure point there because if you look at it, he kind of said in his confessional he's perfectly fine in staying in South Dakota if she was fine with it as well. But as we found out in hers, if they don't find a way out of South Dakota and make it to California, she's pretty much out. So the compatibility is a bit shaky, and it's another power dynamic if you think about it because, he seems to like her more than she likes him. And I say that because if she liked him more than he liked her, she would be with him no matter where he was in America. Her love for him is predicated on the American dream that he can provide for her. In terms of their ecosystem, parents, friends, family, we don't know much about her story. Maybe we'll find that out in subsequent episodes. But as far as his story, as I said before, he's pretty much living at home right now with his mother and his stepfather. So again, another pressure point in terms of being an adult, going back home, having this wife, bringing her to America and bring her into my familial home, right? And from what we see just in terms of what she does as far as Instagram and stuff, she's kind of in the Instagram influencer thoughtish type group, right? I don't know that to be true in terms of that, she's an Instagram thought, but the way she purports herself on the internet is just like her, just like Jibri's mom said, you're kind of wanting attention, you're kind of wanting sexual attention, right? And listen, the mom made it very clear, okay? When you stay in someone else's house, there's a certain set of decorum that you have to follow, okay? You can't be up in here in your G-strings and your, your feathers, your see-through, your mesh and stuff like that, because baby, I got this husband that I'm trying to keep and I don't need you taking him down the road of ill repute, okay? So the mama was right, and it's going to create a pressure point in terms of her being Serbian and apparently them having a FU attitude, and they say it like they mean it. It's like this Eastern European mindset where you say exactly what you mean. Now, that doesn't gel with the American mindset in terms of you respect your parents and you try to go along to get along. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And in terms of his friends, what was interesting is that we only really see in terms of his best friend, right? The one that I guess he started the band with. Now, the character arc that they're kind of trying to show for Miona is that she's like the Yoko Ono of the group, honey. She breaking them all the way down, okay? Because apparently Jibri stepped away from the group in order to pursue Miona. So now that Jibri's away, they can't, make music, they can't tour, they can't have brand partnerships. So he kind of brought the group to a standstill, which kind of creates resentment between the friend, the group, and Miona. So that's another pressure point. If you don't get along with my family, which, we're yet to see in terms of that dynamic and how it works, and you also don't get along with my friends, then I don't know how I can indoctrinate you into my larger life. So definite pressure points all around. And in terms of their outlook, I've already alluded to this before, y'all. What I like about Miona is that she kept it 100 from the beginning. If we do not go to Cali, I can go back to Serbia, okay? Because I can live good in Serbia better than I could live in South Dakota, okay? So if you do not add to my life, what are you here for? Is it a selfish mindset? Yes. Do I agree with it? No, but it is that lady's right to know how she wants her life set up and how she wants to live. So in that respect, I respect her for that in terms of her transparency. Now, in terms of our fourth couple, y'all, let's talk about Emily and Kobe. So Emily is the American. She is a former wild child and current nanny, and she seems to have lived life in the past by the seat of her pants, right? Kobe is from Cameroon, and they met in China. He was an international underwear model. He's not currently a model now. Now, in terms of Emily and Kobe, y'all, what made me chuckle is just the whole dynamics of their entire story, okay? If I'm the parent of Emily and I send you over to China, baby, to teach the people English as a second language, and instead of doing that, or actually as a result of doing that, you find the one black person down to China and you laughing, cheesing, clubbing, drinking, having sex and showers and on the damn floor and creating a baby, then trying to come back to America, tell me that you pregnant, he your damn fiance, and bring him back over, that's a bit too much dysfunction. And to me, it kind of shows me that she's one of those types of people that act first and try to think about the consequences later, right? To me, people approach situations in one of two ways. Either they're planners, in terms of me, where I try to think 10 steps ahead, or they're people that act on impulse and then try to figure out how to, figure out what needs to happen after the fact, right? And you can only really do the latter when you have a safety net. And so to me, that lady knew that her parents would be there for her no matter what, okay? Because somebody does not go over to China, supposed to be teaching English, find a black man in China, foo la la with him down to the damn hotel, have sex on the damn floor, create a baby, get a fiance, and come back not knowing that they're going to be accepted, right? So there's some sort of level of comfort there that she has with her family. And in terms of his background, all we know is that he's an ex-international underwear model. Now listen, apparently he doesn't do the underwear modeling anymore. And if you let her tell it down to the table with her parents, he started some business down to Cameroon before he left, which either means, as her father said, he's not good at business, right? Number one, or he's full of shit, right? And I say full of shit in meaning that he started the business knowing full well that he wanted to be back in Cameroon if this doesn't work out, right? And in all possibilities, it might not. So it's either he's bad with business or he's trying to set himself up for a future that does not include her. In terms of lifestyle compatibility, listen, y'all, we live in a capitalist society. You have to make money. She currently lives with her mother, father, and sister. They share a bathroom in the house. They seem to have a lot of land, but it seems like, it's a very close-knit family dynamic, right? And he's coming from Cameroon trying to get into this situation. There's pressure points in terms of her bringing him over here. There's pressure points in terms of, their discrepancies in terms of what they need to survive. And there's also pressure points, if you think about it, in terms of what her dad said, in that, yes, you're bringing this person over. You're trying to figure out if y'all could be together, but I'm the one taking care of you and him for the next 3 months. And if you decide to stay with him, for the next 6 months after that, right? So pressure points all around. And we already really covered the ecosystem. She has a very supportive family that seems to be there for her no matter how much she F's up, even though admittedly, right now she's in a better place. She's out of her party girl ways. She's a settled, mom with a mom bod in terms of what she said down to the camera. And we don't really know in terms of his ecosystem back in Cameroon, how that's set up. In terms of their outlook, what I think it's going to be predicated on is to whether or not they can recapture the spark that initially brought them together, right? If you think about it, the person that she is today is not the person that he met in China 2 years ago. Okay, that person was a party girl. She was young. She wanted to have fun. She didn't have no kids. She didn't have any responsibilities. She was just willing to have fun, have sex in the shower, on the floor, create babies, like live her life kind of on the edge, right? And now she's settled. She lives with her parents. I think it's in some sort of like middle America place. She lives with her sister. They all share a bathroom. It's a different dynamic, right? And so my question to the whole situation is this. If you take the baby out of the situation, is this somebody that you would have kept in contact with for 2 years? And if the answer is yes, then they'll survive. And if the answer is no, then this relationship will never survive. Because what strikes me as interesting, y'all, is that it's one thing to say that you went on vacation or you were, studying abroad or doing something abroad and you met somebody and the connection was just so dope that once you came back to your country, 2 years later, y'all are still in contact and you decide, you know what? We're still in contact. We're still vibing. Why don't you come over and let's try out this relationship thing and see if it has any legs to it? That's one instance. And that's kind of like the preferred situation. But when you throw a baby into it, y'all, it's kind of predicated on me caring for my child, right? And me wanting to see the child that I have not seen since they were born, right? And so if we remove the child from the situation, is the man still interested, right? The first thing he said when he saw her down to the airport, or maybe the, second or third thing, was that she gained weight, right? So you already have a pressure point there. How I remembered you in my mind 2 years ago is not how you, show yourself now. And listen, this lady had a baby. She's gone through the body changes of that. She, has the hormone stuff. She has a mom body, listen. But there's a saying that says, how you get them is how you have to keep them, right? So I'm not saying she should have done a better job of working out and trying to get down to her mom thing. I'm just saying that could have potentially been one less stressor and one less hindrance to find out whether or not y'all were, y'all are compatible as a couple and whether or not y'all can go the distance, right? So it'll just be interesting to see if he can overcome the vision that he had from her for 2 years ago, and whether or not the child will keep them together. Because in my opinion, children do not keep relationships together, okay? They are a reason to try to keep the relationship together. But, if you and the spouse are not really vibing, it's probably best that you parent from afar and parent separately. So I'll be interested to see in terms of their outlook if they end up staying together and how this story unfolds between the two of them. Now, in terms of our fifth couple, y'all, we meet them in the second episode in terms of this House Hoax episode. And we learn about Yve and Mohammed, right? So in terms of their backgrounds, Yve is an acupuncturist and a masseur and kind of like a healer type personality, right? One of those, she's Native American is her background, and she kind of just believes in that whole spiritual healing, that sort of spiritual energy. Now, she is a mother. She has an ex-husband. She also has a child with special needs. And I wrote this down because it was very striking to me. He has, kidney failure. He's on the autism spectrum, and he also has Down syndrome. So those are, it takes a very special person to be able to care for a child that has special needs, right? And it can either bring your relationship closer together, or it can pull it apart. And in her case, she said she didn't feel that her ex-husband, wanted that for his life and didn't give her the adequate support that she needed. And I think she's a very special person, because it takes somebody very special to look at that situation and to say, this is an opportunity for me to be a better person and for me to rise to the occasion as to what this child needs from me. So listen, there's a special place in heaven for people like that. So good for her. And in terms of her intended, we meet Mohammed, who is from Egypt. And we don't really know what he does other than he has a six-pack and he takes thottish type IG photos, and they kind of met in that IG space in terms of her posting this fitness photo, him commenting on it, and them going back and forth from there. Now listen, in terms of their lifestyle compatibility, this is probably the first couple where I am kind of leaning more towards this man being a slight scammer, and let me tell you why, okay? Because once she was down to the table with her friends and she was talking about how, when she met him, he was a virgin. She was over there in Egypt for like 7 days. Listen to me. If this man is in the Islamic, culture, and he's a Muslim, right? It kind of strikes me as weird that within a 7-day period, even if he's young and even if he's in his 20s, you forsake your entire religion, your upbringing, your traditional nature, and you fool-la-la with this lady down to this hotel and do her dirty and lose your damn virginity, okay? It seems a bit opportunistic that within 7 days of meeting her in person, you've had sex, you're no longer a virgin, you propose to her, and now you want to come back to America to live this life. So it seems a little bit scamming, a little bit of scammation to the situation. I don't know. Y'all drop down in the comments and let me know what you think. But that kind of struck me as weird that you lose your whole religion and your traditional mindset within a 7-day period with the hope of getting a green card and coming over to America. And in terms of their compatibility, the second point on it, just going back to her son, right? It takes a special person to care for a special needs child. And I don't know if I think he's 25 or 23, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if at 25 he has the skills and the attributes necessary and the care necessary to be a stepfather to that child and give her child what he needs, right? So I think that'll be another pressure point, because when you date and you marry a woman with children, you're not just marrying the woman, you're marrying, the woman and the child. So it's a package deal. And just in terms of her trying to change who she is, and I listen, I understand the Islamic tradition is more modest, right? It's the whole hijab thing. It's the whole, not showing skin, not showing cleavage and stuff. Essentially, he wants her to turn into Janet Jackson when she married that damn billionaire. Y'all remember, before she married the billionaire, baby, Janet was Tootsie rolling around, wearing a whole bunch of mesh, lace, little left to the damn imagination. But the minute she got with that damn billionaire man over there in the Middle East, she was covered up from head to toe, swathed in black, okay? So this lady, in terms of Eve, decides she gonna split the middle and decide that she just gonna get rid of some of her more revealing outfits and not really talk about sex as much, and kind of like limit herself to certain topics or certain subjects and try to be more traditional with it, right? So if you, to me, it's going to be a compromise, right? Because listen, as far as I'm concerned, he's not as traditional as he purports to be. If within 7 days, like I told y'all before, he done had sex with this lady, done the whole premarital sex thing, proposed to her, and wants to come to America. So he's not as traditional as he purports to be. But I think that if you want to make something work and you don't want to go the distance in terms of converting wholly to, Islam or, the Muslim culture and whatnot, or the Muslim religion, I think it's a good midpoint in terms of her trying to be more modest and more acceptable in terms of what he views as a traditional wife, right? So I think there's going to have to be some give and take on both sides. In terms of their ecosystem, we don't really know much about his ecosystem yet. I guess we'll find that out in subsequent episodes. And in terms of her ecosystem, you know, she has her squad, she has her girls. And, you know, listen, when you're with your friends, you're vulgar, you're open, you say it like you mean it, right? And that's pretty much what that group is predicated upon. And it's just interesting, even though he's not even over in America yet, how she's already limiting herself in terms of how she speaks, what she says, and being cognizant of it. So to me, it's half trying to be acceptable for, you know, your husband's sensibilities, and half trying to, you know, change entirely who you are. So I think it's going to be threading the needle a bit, and trying to make your husband happy and still trying to stay true to who you are and who your friends know you to be without completely changing up. So that's going to be an interesting thing to find out. And in terms of their outlook, y'all, listen, to me, I've already categorized this man as a scammer. And so listen, I put this label on him, and I'm going to let him show me throughout the weeks whether or not he can earn my damn trust back. It seems a little bit weird to me that you already out of your damn religion 7 days within meeting this lady. So I don't know in terms of this outlook, but it's going to be predicated on that. It's going to be predicated on this whole modesty thing in terms of the way she dresses. And it's also going to be predicated on how he's able to interact with her son and what he can bring to the son's life into that relationship. So I think that's really all I wanted to say on this episode, y'all. So if you liked what I said, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on all social media at DatDamnDasher. And until next time, y'all, apparently there's 7 couples in total. So I guess we'll meet the next 2 next time. So I look forward to seeing them and analyzing them in terms of the same rubric. So I will talk to y'all later. Bye.